She thought it was just another caregiving job. Good pay, professional boundaries, nothing personal. But the moment Evelyn Moore walked through that bedroom door, her carefully rebuilt life shattered in an instant. The client she'd been hired to bathe, to care for at his most vulnerable, was the one man she'd never forgotten. The quiet stranger from a college library 10 years ago who'd noticed her when she was trapped in the wrong marriage. Now Marcus Reed sat paralyzed in a hospital bed, a self-made millionaire stripped of everything but his pride, and he'd requested her specifically. What he didn't know was that she'd noticed him too, and that some second chances come wrapped in the most impossible circumstances. As professional distance crumbled and forbidden feelings surfaced, they'd both have to decide. Was this love born from genuine connection, or just two broken people mistaking gratitude for something deeper? Drop a comment below and tell me what city you're watching from. I want to know where this story is reaching you. The coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but Evelyn Moore hadn't noticed. She sat at her small kitchen table, staring at the contract in front of her like it might bite. Personal care services, in-home, daily bathing assistance required. Her pen hovered over the signature line. The money was good, really good. Better than anything she'd seen in 3 years of caregiving work. But something about this job felt different, heavier. She read the terms again. Private client, wealthy household, recent paralysis from a car accident, male, 32 years old. Evelyn set down her pen and rubbed her eyes. She was 28 and tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. Her last relationship had ended badly, the kind of bad that made you question your own judgment. Jason had seemed perfect until she'd found out he'd been lying about everything from his job to whether he'd ever been married. Turned out he had a wife in Connecticut. That was 8 months ago. Since then, she'd thrown herself into work. Caregiving was good for that. It kept her hands busy and her mind focused on someone else's problems. "You're overthinking it," she said out loud to her empty apartment. But was she? This wasn't like her other clients. Mrs. Henderson down the hall needed help with medications and grocery shopping. Mr. Kim needed someone to drive him to dialysis twice a week. This was different. This was intimate. Bathing someone meant seeing them at their most vulnerable. It meant trust. It meant being close in ways that required professional distance and personal warmth all at once. Her phone buzzed. Claire. "Did you sign it yet?" her friend asked without saying hello. "I'm looking at it." "Ev, it's twice what you make now." "I know. So what's the problem?" Evelyn sighed. "It's a lot of responsibility. And it's bathing, Claire. Every day. That's really personal. You've done it before. Not like this. Not with someone my age. Not with..." She stopped. "Not with a guy," Claire finished. "Look, I get it, but you're a professional. You know how to handle this stuff. And honestly, you need this job. Your car's making that noise again." It was true. Her 15-year-old sedan sounded like it was dying every time she started it. "Just think about it," Claire said, her voice softer now. "But don't think too long. Jobs like this don't wait." After they hung up, Evelyn stood and walked to her bathroom mirror. She saw a woman with light brown hair pulled into a practical ponytail, blue eyes that looked older than 28, and a face that clients called kind. She wore her emotions plainly. She always had. Her mother used to say Evelyn's heart showed on her face. Maybe that's why Jason had picked her. Easy to read, easy to fool. She shook her head. This wasn't about Jason. This was about work, about paying rent, about doing what she was good at. Evelyn returned to the kitchen table, picked up her pen, and signed her name. The house was in the kind of neighborhood where the lawns looked like golf courses and the driveways held cars Evelyn had only seen in magazines. She checked the address 3 times before pulling up to the gate. A voice came through the intercom. "Name?" "Evelyn Moore. I'm the new caregiver." The gate swung open silently. Her car made its dying wail noise as she drove up the long driveway. She parked next to a black Mercedes and tried not to feel embarrassed. Money didn't matter. She was here to work. The front door opened before she could knock. A black woman in her late 50s stood there, dressed elegantly in slacks and a silk blouse. Her expression was neutral, but her eyes were sharp. "Miss Moore, I'm Diane Reed, Marcus's aunt. Please call me Evelyn. Come in." The house was beautiful in a quiet, expensive way. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, art on the walls that probably cost more than Evelyn made in a year, but it didn't feel cold. Someone had chosen warm colors, soft lighting, comfortable furniture. "I'll be direct," Diane said, leading her through the living room. "My nephew is private. He doesn't like fuss. He doesn't want pity. He wants someone competent and professional who won't treat him like he's broken." "I understand." "Do you?" Diane stopped and turned. "Because he's been through 4 caregivers in 2 months. They meant well, but they all made him feel helpless. That's not what he needs." Evelyn met her eyes. "I've worked with clients who've lost their independence. I know it's hard. I know pride matters. I won't take that from him." Something in Diane's face softened slightly. "Good. His room is this way." They walked down a wide hallway. Evelyn's heart was beating faster than it should. This was just another client. Just another job. Diane knocked once and opened the door. "Marcus, your new caregiver is here." The room was spacious and filled with afternoon light. A hospital bed had been set up near the windows, and in it sat a man who made Evelyn's breath catch in her throat. She knew that face. Marcus Reed looked at her, and for one horrible, wonderful second, neither of them moved. It had been 10 years. 10 years since the community college where she'd studied nursing basics and he'd been finishing a business degree. 10 years since she'd noticed him in the library, always studying alone, always focused. 10 years since she'd dropped her books and he'd helped her pick them up, and their hands had touched, and she'd felt something shift in her chest. They'd never dated. They'd barely spoken beyond polite hellos. But she'd noticed him. And sometimes, when she'd look up from her textbooks, she'd catch him watching her. Then he'd graduated and disappeared into a life she couldn't imagine, and she'd married the wrong man, divorced him, and started over. Now, here he was, sitting in a hospital bed, his legs motionless under a blanket, his dark eyes wide with the same recognition she felt. "Evelyn?" His voice was deeper than she remembered. "You two know each other?" Diane's voice cut through the moment. Evelyn found her voice. We went to the same college a long time ago." Marcus's expression closed like a door slamming. "That was years ago. We weren't friends." The words stung more than they should have. "I see." Diane looked between them. "Is this going to be a problem?" "No," Marcus said firmly. "Miss Moore is here to work, that's all." "Miss Moore, not Evelyn." She straightened her spine. "That's right. I'm here as your caregiver, nothing else." "Good." He looked at Diane. "Can you give us a minute?" Diane hesitated, then nodded and left, closing the door quietly behind her. The silence stretched like taffy. Evelyn spoke first. "I didn't know it was you. Would you have come if you did?" "Yes. This is my job." He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Your job is to bathe me, to help me dress, to wipe my—" He stopped, his jaw tight. "You should leave." "Is that what you want?" "What I want doesn't matter anymore." His hands gripped the blanket. "What I want is to walk, to drive, to live like I did 3 months ago. Since I can't have that, I'll take competent help that doesn't remind me of who I used to be." Evelyn took a step closer. "I'm sorry this happened to you. The accident, everything. But I'm good at my job and I signed a contract. Unless you fire me, I'm staying." His eyes searched her face. "Why?" "Because you need help. And because 10 years ago you were kind to a girl who dropped her books in the library. You didn't have to help her, but you did." "That's a stupid reason." "Maybe, but it's mine." Something flickered in his expression. Pain, maybe, or memory. "Fine," he said finally. "But this is strictly professional. I'm your employer. You're my employee. Nothing else." "Agreed." "Good." He reached for a tablet on his bedside table. "Your schedule is here. Bathing is at 8 every morning, therapy observation at 2, evening care at 7. Diane will show you where everything is." "Okay. You can go now." Evelyn turned toward the door, then stopped. "Marcus?" "What?" "It's good to see you again. Even like this." She left before he could respond. In the hallway, Diane was waiting. "Well?" "He wants me to stay," Evelyn said. "Are you sure you want to?" Evelyn thought about her empty apartment, her dying car, her carefully rebuilt life. She thought about the boy in the library who'd smiled at her like she was worth noticing. Yes, I'm sure. Diane studied her for a long moment. The bathing room is through there. He'll need help transferring from bed to chair tomorrow morning. Everything you need is already set up. Tom, his physical therapist, comes at 2. He'll explain Marcus's condition in detail. Thank you. Miss Moore? Diane's voice stopped her. Marcus is proud. Too proud sometimes. Don't let him push you away because he's scared. Scared of what? Of needing anyone. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Marcus's face, the way his jaw had tightened when he'd said her name, the way his eyes had held recognition and distance all at once. She'd thought about him sometimes over the years, wondered what had happened to the quiet boy who'd studied so hard, who'd had plans and dreams she'd never asked about. She'd heard things, that he'd started a tech company, that he'd made money, that he'd moved into a different world. Now he was paralyzed, and she was supposed to bathe him. Her phone buzzed. Claire, of course. How'd it go? Evelyn stared at her ceiling. I know him. What? The client, Marcus. We went to college together. Oh my God. Yeah. Did you two? No, we barely spoke, but I noticed him, and I think he noticed me. Claire was quiet for a second. Ev, this could get complicated. I know. Do you want out? Did she? It would be easier to walk away, to find another job, to pretend she'd never seen Marcus Reed sitting in that bed, trying to hide how much he hurt. No, she said. I'm staying. Then be careful, okay? Your heart shows on your face. After they hung up, Evelyn lay in the dark and tried to prepare herself for tomorrow, for the moment when she'd walk into his room and they'd both have to pretend the past didn't matter. But the past always mattered. She'd learned that the hard way. Morning came too fast. Evelyn dressed in her scrubs, professional practical blue, and pulled her hair into a tight bun. She looked at herself in the mirror and practiced her calm, capable expression. You're a professional, she told her reflection. You've done this before. This is just another client. Her reflection didn't look convinced. The drive to Marcus's house felt longer than it had yesterday. Every red light gave her time to doubt herself. Every mile gave her time to imagine how awkward this was going to be. Diane let her in with a nod. He's awake. Everything's ready. Evelyn walked down the hallway, her heart pounding like she was walking to an execution. She knocked softly. Come in. His voice was flat. Marcus was sitting up in bed wearing a t-shirt and gym shorts. The morning light caught his face, showing the exhaustion under his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Good morning, Evelyn said, keeping her voice steady. Morning. She washed her hands at the sink in the corner, taking her time, giving them both a moment to adjust. I'll need to help you into the chair, she said, turning around. Then we'll go to the bathroom. I know the routine. She moved to the bed and positioned the wheelchair. Marcus shifted his weight, preparing. He was strong in his upper body. She could see the muscles in his arms as he grabbed the transfer board. Ready? She asked. Yes. She supported him as he slid from bed to chair. The movement was practiced, efficient. He'd done this before with other caregivers, but his jaw stayed tight the whole time, and she could feel the tension radiating off him. In the bathroom, she gave him privacy for what she could. She prepared the shower chair, tested the water temperature, laid out towels. When it was time, she helped him transfer again. This was the moment, the one they'd both been dreading. I'll need to remove your shirt, she said quietly. I know. She helped him, keeping her movements quick and professional. Then the shorts. His eyes were fixed on the wall, his whole body rigid with humiliation. The water's warm, she said. Let me know if it's too hot. She washed him efficiently, carefully, narrating each step like she'd been trained. I'm washing your back now. I'm moving to your shoulders. Tell me if anything's uncomfortable. He said nothing. His breathing was controlled, like he was meditating through it. She worked quickly, respecting his dignity as much as the situation allowed. When it was done, she helped him dry off, helped him dress in clean clothes, helped him back to the chair. Okay, she said, all finished. Thank you. The words sounded like they had been dragged out of him. Back in his room, she helped him into bed. He stared at the ceiling, his expression unreadable. Evelyn checked his water glass, made sure his tablet was within reach, adjusted his pillows. Do you need anything else before I go? No. She turned to leave. Evelyn. She stopped. It was the first time he'd said her first name since she'd arrived. Yes? He still wasn't looking at her. Thank you for being professional. It's my job. Still, thank you. Something in his voice made her chest ache. She wanted to say something comforting, something kind, but kindness might feel like pity. So she just nodded. I'll see you at 2 for therapy. She left him there, alone with his pride and his pain. Tom Alvarez, the physical therapist, was everything Marcus wasn't: relaxed, chatty, quick to smile. He arrived at exactly 2 o'clock with equipment and good energy. You must be Evelyn, he said, shaking her hand. Marcus mentioned you started yesterday. That's right. Great, come watch the session. You'll need to know his limitations and goals. She followed him to a room that had been converted into a home gym. Marcus was already there in his chair, his expression guarded. Ready to suffer? Tom asked cheerfully. Always. What followed was an hour of hard work. Tom guided Marcus through exercises designed to maintain muscle tone and test nerve response. Marcus pushed himself, his face showing strain, his breathing heavy. But he didn't complain. He didn't stop. Evelyn watched from the corner, taking mental notes. She saw how Tom encouraged without coddling, how he celebrated small victories, a muscle twitch, a sustained hold, without making them seem bigger than they were. She also saw Marcus's frustration when his leg didn't respond the way he wanted, when his body refused to obey his will. His jaw would tighten, his hands would grip the parallel bars harder, and something dark would flash in his eyes. Good work today, Tom said at the end, clapping Marcus on the shoulder. You're getting stronger. Not fast enough. Recovery takes time. I don't have time. I have a company to run, projects to finish, a life waiting. Tom's expression turned serious. Marcus, I know this is hard, but pushing yourself too hard won't speed things up. It'll just hurt your progress. Marcus said nothing. After Tom left, Evelyn approached slowly. Marcus was still at the parallel bars, his head down. You did great, she said softly. Don't. Don't what? Don't try to make me feel better. I didn't do great. I did the bare minimum. I moved my arms and lifted weights and my legs still don't work. They might again. Tom says a lot of things. Marcus's voice was sharp. Hope is his job, but hope doesn't pay bills or run companies or let you walk to the bathroom by yourself. Evelyn moved closer. You're right. It doesn't. But it keeps you going, and right now, that's what matters. He finally looked at her. Why are you being nice to me? Because you're hurting, and because I remember you being kind. I'm not that person anymore. Maybe not, but you're still worth kindness. For a moment, his expression cracked. She saw the exhaustion underneath, the fear he was hiding, the weight of everything he'd lost. Then, he rebuilt his walls. Help me back to my room. She did in silence. That evening, after she'd helped him with dinner and evening care, after Diane had said goodnight and the house had grown quiet, Evelyn sat in her car in the driveway. She was shaking, not from fear or discomfort, from emotion, from the intensity of being close to someone in so much pain, from the difficulty of maintaining professional distance when every instinct told her to comfort him, to tell him it would be okay, to somehow fix what was broken. Her phone rang. Claire again. How was day 1? Her friend asked. Hard. Want to talk about it? I can't. Privacy stuff. Right. Claire paused. But are you okay? Evelyn watched the lights in Marcus's house. One window still glowed. His room. I don't know, she admitted. I thought I could do this. Keep it professional. But Claire, he's so hurt, not just physically, emotionally. And I remember him being different, confident, full of plans. Now he's just angry. Anyone would be angry. I know, and I don't blame him. But it's hard to watch. Do you want to quit? The question hung in the air. It would be easier to leave, to find another client, to protect herself from whatever complicated feelings were brewing in her chest. But when she thought about someone else bathing Marcus, someone else seeing him at his most vulnerable, someone else not knowing that he used to smile at a girl in a library, she couldn't do it. No, she said, I'm staying. Then you need to be careful. I know you, Ev. You care too much. Don't let him break your heart. After they hung up, Evelyn started her car. It made its awful noise. and drove home through the dark streets, wondering if it was already too late for warnings. The next 2 weeks fell into a rhythm. Evelyn arrived at 8 every morning, helped Marcus with bathing and dressing, stayed for therapy at 2, returned for evening care at 7. The routine became familiar, but it never became easy. Marcus remained distant, polite, but cold. He thanked her for her help in the same flat tone every time. He never met her eyes during bathing. He never asked about her life. He treated her exactly like what she was, an employee. It shouldn't have hurt, but it did. On a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks into the job, something shifted. Evelyn was helping Marcus wash his hair in the shower when he suddenly spoke. "You cut your hair." She paused, surprised. It was the first personal observation he'd made. "What?" "In college. You had longer hair, past your shoulders." She resumed working the shampoo through his hair. "You remember that?" "I remember a lot of things." Her heart beat faster. "Like what?" "Like how you always sat in the corner of the library, by the window. You'd stare outside when you got stuck on something." "I didn't think anyone noticed." "I noticed." The words hung in the air between them. Evelyn rinsed his hair carefully, buying time to compose herself. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" she asked quietly. "Back then?" "Because you wore a ring." She stopped. "You saw that?" "I told you. I noticed everything." Her first marriage. The one that had lasted barely 2 years before she'd realized she'd married someone who didn't actually love her, just the idea of having someone to control. "That ended a long time ago," she said. "I heard. Small town, even for a college. People talk. Then you know it wasn't good. I know he was an idiot to lose you." The unexpected kindness made her throat tight. She finished rinsing his hair in silence, her hands gentle. When they were done, and he was dressed and back in his chair, Marcus spoke again. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought up the past." "It's okay." "No, it's not. You're here to work, not to talk about old times with a man who can't even stand up." Evelyn knelt beside his chair so she could look him in the eye. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Talk about yourself like you're less than human because you need help." His jaw tightened. "I'm less than I was." "You're different than you were. That's not the same thing." "Feels the same." She held his gaze. "Marcus, I've worked with a lot of people who've lost things, mobility, memory, independence. And you know what I've learned? People aren't defined by what they can do with their bodies. They're defined by how they treat others, by their character, by whether they're kind or cruel, honest or fake. That doesn't change just because your legs don't work right now." "Right now," he repeated bitterly, like there's a guarantee they ever will again. There's not. I won't lie to you, but there's also not a guarantee they won't. So you can spend your time being angry at what you've lost, or you can spend it fighting for what you might get back. He studied her face for a long moment. "You always this optimistic?" "No. Sometimes I'm terrified and sad and convinced everything's falling apart. But I try not to live there." "Why not?" "Because I did once, after my divorce. I spent 6 months believing I was broken and stupid and unlovable. And you know what happened?" "What?" "Nothing. Nothing changed except I wasted 6 months feeling sorry for myself. So I decided to feel sorry for myself less and live my life more." Marcus's expression softened slightly. "Did it work?" "Most days. Some days I still feel broken, but those days are getting fewer." He nodded slowly. "Thank you for being honest. That's all I know how to be." Something passed between them then, a moment of real connection, free from employer and employee, from past and present. Just two people who'd both been hurt, both been lost, trying to find their way forward. Then Diane knocked on the door, and the moment ended. That afternoon, Tom noticed the change. "You two are talking now," he said during a water break. Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead. "She's here every day. Hard not to talk." "That's not what I mean. You're actually engaging. For the first time since your accident, you're not treating your caregiver like a piece of medical equipment." "Don't read into it," Tom grinned. "Too late. I already am." "Tom, I'm just saying, connection is good for recovery. Isolation makes everything harder. If you're comfortable with her, that's a positive thing." Marcus glanced at Evelyn, who was reviewing notes in the corner. "It's complicated." "Because you knew her before?" "How did you?" "Diane told me. She tells me everything." Tom lowered his voice. Look, man, I don't know what your history is, but that woman comes here every day and treats you with more respect and dignity than anyone I've seen. She doesn't baby you. She doesn't pity you. She just sees you. That's rare. That's her job. No, her job is to bathe you and keep you clean. Everything else, the way she listens, the way she encourages you without being fake about it, the way she makes you feel human, that's not in the job description. That's just who she is. Marcus said nothing, but his eyes found Evelyn again. That night, after evening care, Marcus asked Evelyn to stay for a few minutes. "I wanted to apologize," he said. She sat in the chair by his bed. "For what?" "For being cold, for keeping you at a distance. You're right, you're here to help, and I've been making that harder than it needs to be. You're dealing with a lot, I understand. That's not an excuse to treat you badly. You haven't treated me badly. You've just been formal. Too formal, like you're a stranger." He paused. "But you're not. You never were. Even when we barely spoke, I knew you. I watched you study. I noticed when you smiled at something in your book. I saw you help that kid who spilled coffee all over his laptop." He stopped, shaking his head. "I sound like a stalker." Evelyn smiled. "You sound like someone who paid attention." "I did, more than I should have. You were married, off limits, but I couldn't stop noticing you." Her heart was racing now. "Why didn't you say anything after? After my divorce?" "By then you'd graduated, moved on, and I was busy building my company, working 18-hour days, convincing myself that success mattered more than everything else." His voice turned bitter. "Turns out success doesn't mean much when you can't walk." "Marcus, I'm not looking for pity. I'm just trying to explain why I've been the way I've been. Seeing you again, having you here, taking care of me like this. It's hard. It reminds me of all the things I didn't do, all the chances I didn't take." Evelyn didn't know what to say. This was crossing lines, moving into territory that had nothing to do with caregiving and everything to do with feelings she wasn't sure she should have. "I should go," she said quietly. "Wait." He reached out, then stopped, his hand falling back to the bed. "I need to know something. Did you notice me too? Back then?" She could lie. She should lie. Professional distance, clear boundaries. But she'd told him she only knew how to be honest. "Yes," she said. "I noticed you." The word hung between them like a confession. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked. "Because I was married to the wrong person and too scared to admit it. Because you seemed focused and driven and way out of my league. Because I was a mess and you were clearly going somewhere. I didn't go that far, just ended up here, in this bed, needing help to shower. You built a successful company. That's not nothing. It's also not everything." He held her gaze. "I think I got it backwards. I spent 10 years chasing success and ignoring everything else. Now I have money and a nice house and a company that runs without me, and I'm more alone than I've ever been. You have Diane, you have Tom, you have people who care. I have employees and relatives and a therapist. That's not the same as having someone who sees you and stays anyway." The vulnerability in his voice broke something open in her chest. "I see you," she said softly, "and I'm still here, as my employee. Is that all you want?" The question came out before she could stop it. Marcus stared at her, and she watched emotions war across his face. Want, fear, hope, doubt. "I don't know what I want anymore," he admitted, "except for my legs to work, and for you to keep coming back every day." "I will. I signed a contract." "That's not what I mean." She knew exactly what he meant. "I should go," she said again, standing. "Evelyn?" She stopped at the door. "What you said this morning about not living in fear, how do you do that when fear is the only thing that makes sense?" She thought about her divorce, about Jason's lies, about the months she'd spent convinced she was too broken to ever trust anyone again. "You do it badly at first," she said. "You mess up. You doubt yourself. You take one step forward and 2 steps back. But eventually, the forward steps start to outnumber the backward ones, and one day you realize you're not as scared as you used to be. What if I don't get there? You will. I've seen how hard you work in therapy. You don't give up. That's not in you. Sometimes I want to, but you don't. That's what matters. She left him then, but the conversation stayed with her all the way home. Claire called as soon as Evelyn walked through her apartment door. "You've got that voice," her friend said. "What voice?" "The one you get when something happened." "Spill." Evelyn collapsed on her couch. "He told me he noticed me, in college. He remembered details, specific things." "Oh no. And he asked if I noticed him too." "Please tell me you lied." "I told him the truth." Claire groaned. "Ev, what are you doing?" "I don't know. I'm supposed to be professional. I'm supposed to keep boundaries. But Claire, when he talks to me like that, when he's vulnerable and honest, I can't pretend I don't feel anything." "What do you feel?" That was the question, wasn't it? "I feel like the girl in the library again," Evelyn admitted. "The one who noticed a boy studying alone and wondered what he was thinking. I feel like maybe there was always something between us that never got a chance to happen. And now? Now it's complicated. He's my client. He's vulnerable. He needs help, not a caregiver who's developing feelings she shouldn't have. Does he feel the same way?" "I think so. Maybe. I don't know." Evelyn rubbed her face. "This is such a mess. Only if you let it be. Look, you're both adults. You both have feelings. That's not a crime. But he's dealing with major trauma right now. You need to be careful not to confuse gratitude with something deeper." "You think that's what this is? He's just grateful I don't treat him like he's broken?" "I think he's in a vulnerable place, and you're the person who sees him every day. Those are perfect conditions for emotional attachment that might not mean what you think it means." Evelyn knew Claire was right. She also knew it didn't change how she felt. "I'll be careful," she promised. "Good. Because I love you and I don't want to watch you get hurt again." After they hung up, Evelyn lay in the dark and tried to sort through her emotions. Was this real? Or was she just lonely? Was Marcus interested in her or just the comfort she provided? And did it matter? She was his caregiver. Professional distance wasn't just recommended, it was required. But professional distance was getting harder every day. The next morning started like any other. Bathing, dressing, routine care. But something had shifted. Marcus smiled at her when she came in, actually smiled. "Good morning," he said, and it sounded warm. "Morning." They talked while she worked. Small things, easy things. She told him about her dying car. He told her about a project his company was developing. She asked questions. He answered them. The conversation flowed naturally, like they were friends instead of employer and employee. Afterward, Marcus asked her to stay for breakfast. "Diane makes too much food anyway," he said, "and I could use the company." It felt like crossing a line, but she was hungry, and the invitation seemed genuine. So she said yes. They ate in his room, him in bed, her in the chair nearby. Diane had made scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit. It was simple and good. "Tell me about your nursing training," Marcus said. "You were studying for something when I saw you in the library." "I wanted to be an RN, but life got complicated. The divorce, money problems. I had to drop out and start working. Caregiving was close enough." "Do you regret it?" She considered. "Sometimes. I think I would have been good at it, but I'm good at this too. And it's more personal, more about actually helping people than just following protocols." "That fits you." "What do you mean?" "You care, really care. It's obvious in how you work. You don't just go through the motions. You actually see the person you're helping." The compliment made her chest warm. "Thank you. I mean it. I've had caregivers who were competent but distant. You're different. You make me feel human." Their eyes met across the breakfast plates, and Evelyn felt that pull again. The same one she'd felt 10 years ago when their hands had touched over a pile of dropped books. "You are human," she said softly. "You always were. The accident didn't change that. It changed everything else. Not everything. You're still smart, still driven, still kind when you let yourself be." "Kind?" He laughed. "I haven't been kind. I've been angry and difficult and you've been hurt. There's a difference." He set down his fork. "Evelyn, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why did you really take this job? The truth." She could feel her pulse in her throat. "I needed the money. That part's true. But also," she hesitated, "also, when I saw it was you, I couldn't leave. I kept thinking about the boy in the library who helped me with my books, who smiled at me like I mattered. I wanted to help him if I could. Even though I've been cold to you? Especially then, because I understood why. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I think I asked them to hire you specifically. I saw your name in the caregiver database and I told Diane you seemed qualified. But the truth is, I wanted to see you again. I told myself it was just curiosity. But maybe it was more than that. Evelyn's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe I never stopped noticing you, even after 10 years, even after everything. The confession sat between them, huge and terrifying and real. Marcus, I'm your caregiver. We can't, I know all the reasons this is complicated. But I also know that every morning, the best part of my day is when you walk through that door. And I don't think that's just because you help me shower. She wanted to lean forward, to close the distance between them, to find out if his lips felt the way she'd once imagined. Instead, she stood up. I need to think about this, she said. I understand. I'll be back for therapy this afternoon. Okay. She made it to the door before he called her name one more time. Evelyn? Yes? Thank you for being honest, for not running away. I don't run anymore, she said. I learned that the hard way, too. She didn't go home. Instead, she drove to the park near her apartment and sat on a bench, watching people jog and walk dogs and live their normal lives. What was she supposed to do with this? Marcus had basically confessed feelings for her. She had feelings for him. But the situation was impossible. He was vulnerable, grieving his old life, dependent on her for basic care. Any relationship between them would be built on unequal ground. And yet when she was with him, she felt seen in a way she hadn't since before her marriage. He looked at her like she mattered, like her thoughts and words and presence were valuable. He made her laugh, he challenged her, he trusted her with his vulnerability. Was that just gratitude? Or was it something real? Her phone rang, not Claire this time, Diane. Miss Moore, we need to talk. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Is something wrong? Can you come back to the house this afternoon before therapy? Of course. She hung up with a sense of dread settling in her chest. Diane was waiting in the living room when Evelyn arrived. Her expression was serious but not unkind. Sit down, please. Evelyn sat, her hands folded in her lap. I've been watching you and Marcus, Diane said without preamble. The way you interact, the way he looks at you, the way you look at him. I've been professional, Diane held up a hand. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm not blind either. There's something between you two, history maybe, or feelings, probably both. Evelyn didn't deny it. Marcus has been through hell these past few months, Diane continued. The accident, the loss of his independence, the fear that his life as he knew it is over. He's vulnerable right now in ways he's never been before. I know. I would never take advantage. I don't think you would, but I need to know. Are you staying because you care about him as a patient, or because you care about him as a man? The question was direct, fair, terrifying. Evelyn took a breath. Both. I care about his recovery. I want to help him get better, but I also... She stopped, then pushed forward. I also care about him as a person, maybe as more than that. And I know that's complicated. I know it makes everything harder. Diane studied her for a long moment. What if he doesn't recover? What if his legs never work again? What if he needs care for the rest of his life? Then he needs care. That doesn't make him less worthy of whatever this is. And you'd be okay with that? Building something with a man who might always need help? Evelyn met her eyes. I've been helping people for years. That's not what scares me. What scares me is that he might push me away because he thinks he's not enough, or that I'll hurt him because I can't figure out how to balance being his caregiver and being more. Diane nodded slowly. Okay. I needed to know you were thinking clearly, that you understood what you might be getting into. She leaned back. Marcus is proud, too proud. He's going to fight this, fight his feelings for you because he thinks he has nothing to offer right now. He's going to tell himself you're just being kind because it's your job. You need to decide if you're willing to push through that. Are you saying I have your permission? I'm saying I won't stand in your way, but I will protect my nephew. If you hurt him, if you make him feel pitied or dependent or less than, you'll answer to me. The threat was clear. but so was the care behind it. "I won't hurt him," Evelyn said, "not on purpose." "Good," Diane stood. "Now go help him with therapy. He's been grumpy all day, which probably means he's been thinking about you." Evelyn left the living room with her head spinning. She had Diane's blessing. Or at least, she didn't have her opposition. Now she just had to figure out what to do with it. Therapy was tense. Marcus worked hard, but his usual focus seemed fractured. He kept glancing at Evelyn. She kept catching him. Tom definitely noticed. "Okay, what's going on?" the therapist finally asked. "Nothing," Marcus said. "You're distracted, both of you. Did something happen?" "No." "Marcus, I'm fine. Let's just finish." They did, but the air felt thick with everything unsaid. After Tom left, Marcus asked Evelyn to help him back to his room. They moved in silence, the wheelchair wheels squeaking slightly on the hardwood floor. Once he was situated in bed, he finally spoke. "Did Diane talk to you?" "Yes." "What did she say?" "That she's watching us, that she'll protect you, that I need to be careful." Marcus closed his eyes. "I shouldn't have said anything this morning. I made everything complicated. It was already complicated. I can ask for a different caregiver if this is too much." The offer felt like a knife. "Is that what you want?" "No, but I don't want you to stay because you feel obligated either." Evelyn moved closer to the bed. "Marcus, look at me." He did. "I'm not here out of obligation. I'm here because I want to be. Because when I'm with you, I feel like myself again, like the person I was before my marriage taught me not to trust my own judgment. What if your judgment is wrong? What if I'm just lonely and you're just kind, and we're both confusing that with something deeper? What if we're not?" The question hung there. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to pull back. She didn't. His hand found hers, warm and solid. "I'm scared," he admitted. "I'm scared you'll realize I'm not worth the trouble, that you'll wake up one day and see me as a burden instead of a person. That won't happen. You don't know that." "You're right. I don't. But I know I'm willing to find out. If you are." His grip tightened on her hand. "What are we doing here?" "I don't know, but I think we should figure it out together." For the first time since his accident, Marcus smiled, really smiled. It transformed his face, made him look like the boy she'd noticed in the library all those years ago. "Together," he repeated. "I like the sound of that." Evelyn smiled back, her heart full of hope and fear, and something that felt dangerously like falling. She was supposed to be professional, supposed to maintain boundaries. But some boundaries, she was learning, were meant to be carefully, thoughtfully crossed. The next few days felt like living in a dream. Marcus opened up in ways Evelyn hadn't expected. He told her about his childhood, growing up with a single mother who worked 2 jobs, being raised partly by Diane when his mom had to work nights. He told her about starting his company in a garage apartment, living on ramen and ambition. She told him about her own story, the father who left when she was 12, the mother who remarried quickly and badly, how she'd rushed into marriage with Jason because she'd been desperate to build a family of her own, only to realize she'd chosen someone who saw her as property, not a partner. They talked during breakfast, during therapy breaks, during evening care. The conversations flowed easily now that the walls were down. But they were careful. No physical intimacy beyond hand-holding. No promises they couldn't keep. Just honesty and time and the slow building of something that felt real. On a Tuesday morning, 4 weeks into Evelyn's employment, Marcus made progress in therapy that left everyone stunned. Tom had been working him through the usual exercises when Marcus's left foot twitched. Not much, just a small movement. But it was voluntary. Intentional. "Did you see that?" Tom's voice was excited. "Do it again." Marcus's face was intense with concentration. The foot moved again, barely, but definitely. "That's huge," Tom said. "That's real neural response. Your body's healing." Evelyn watched Marcus's expression shift from concentration to disbelief to something like hope. Real hope, not the forced kind. "It's small," Marcus said, like he was afraid to believe it. "Small is how it starts," Tom assured him. "This is good, really good." After therapy, Marcus was quiet. Evelyn helped him back to his room, sensing he needed space to process. "Are you okay?" she asked once he was settled. "I didn't think it would happen," he said quietly. The doctors said maybe, Tom said probably, but I'd convinced myself it wouldn't, that I'd be like this forever. And now? Now I don't know what to think. He looked at her. What if I get better? What if I can walk again? That's good news, Marcus. Is it? His voice was strange. If I get better, you won't need to be here anymore. You'll move on to another client. This, he gestured between them, whatever this is becoming, it'll end. Evelyn's chest tightened. She hadn't thought about that, hadn't considered that his recovery might mean losing him. Let's not worry about that yet, she said. One foot twitch doesn't mean you'll be running marathons next week. And even if you do recover, even if you don't need a caregiver anymore, that doesn't mean we can't still talk, be friends, whatever we're becoming. Friends, he repeated, but his tone suggested the word wasn't big enough for what he felt. She sat on the edge of his bed, closer than she'd normally allow herself. Marcus, I didn't come here looking for this, for you, but I found it anyway. And I'm not going to walk away just because the circumstances change. You say that now. I mean it now, and I'll mean it tomorrow, and next week, and whenever you're ready to believe it. He reached for her hand again. It was becoming their thing, this simple touch that meant more than words. I want to believe it, he said. I want to believe someone could want me for more than what I can do or how much money I make. But Evelyn, you need to understand. When I was successful, when I was on top, women were interested. But I always wondered if they saw me or just what I could provide. Now I can't provide anything. I can barely take care of myself. So if you're here, it's because you actually see me. And that's terrifying. Why terrifying? Because it's real. Because if you leave, it won't be because I lost my money or my status. It'll be because I wasn't enough as just me. Evelyn squeezed his hand. You're already enough. Just you. You always have been. His eyes searched her face like he was looking for proof. How can you be sure? Because I noticed you before you had money, when you were just a student studying too hard in a library. That's who I saw. That's who I still see. Something in Marcus's expression cracked open. Come here. She leaned closer, uncertain what he wanted. He lifted his free hand to her face, his fingers gentle against her cheek. Can I kiss you? He asked softly. Her heart was racing. Marcus, I'm still technically your employee. I don't care about technically. I care about you, about this. If you don't want to, just say so. But don't hide behind professional rules when we both know we crossed those lines weeks ago. He was right. They had. Yes, she whispered. You can kiss me. He pulled her down gently, and their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home. It was soft, careful, full of all the things they'd been holding back. When they pulled apart, Evelyn's eyes were wet. Why are you crying? Marcus asked, concerned. Because I didn't think I'd ever feel this again. Safe, seen, wanted for the right reasons. You are. All of those things, I promise. She believed him. That was the terrifying part. She actually believed him. That evening, Diane found Evelyn in the kitchen preparing Marcus's dinner. You two kissed, she said flatly. Evelyn nearly dropped the plate. How did you? I saw the way you both looked when I came by earlier. Plus, Marcus is humming. He hasn't hummed since before the accident. Diane crossed her arms. I told you I wouldn't stand in your way. I meant it. But you need to be smart about this. What do you mean? You're still his caregiver. That creates a power dynamic whether you want it to or not. If this is going to be real, if you two are going to actually try, you need to change the situation. Change it how? Marcus needs to hire someone else for the physical care. You can still be here, still be part of his life, but not as an employee. That way, whatever develops between you is between equals. Evelyn hadn't thought of that, but Diane was right. As long as she was bathing Marcus, dressing him, being paid to care for him, there would always be questions about whether the relationship was genuine. He won't like that, Evelyn said. He's just gotten comfortable with me. Bringing in someone new will be hard but necessary. You both need to know this thing between. You can exist without the caregiving structure. Otherwise, you'll always wonder. What if he says no? What if he wants me to stay as his caregiver? Diane's expression softened. Then you'll have to decide what matters more, staying close to him in the only way he'll accept, or risking distance to build something real. That night, Evelyn lay awake thinking about Diane's words. She was right. Of course she was right. But the thought of stepping away from Marcus's care, of trusting someone else with his vulnerability, made Evelyn's chest ache. She'd been there for his worst moments. She'd seen him angry, scared, humiliated. She'd earned his trust. Giving that to someone else felt like giving away a piece of what they'd built. But Diane was right about the power dynamic, too. As long as Evelyn was his employee, there would always be an imbalance. Marcus would always wonder if she stayed because she cared or because she was paid to. And Evelyn would always wonder if his feelings were real or just a side effect of dependency. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Are you awake?" She smiled. "Yes, can't sleep. Me either. Thinking about today, the foot movement, that, and the kiss. Did I overstep?" Her heart squeezed. Even now he was worried about pushing too far. "No, you didn't. I wanted it too." "Good, because I've been wanting to do that for 10 years. 10 years is a long time to wait. Worth it." She stared at the text, feeling warm and terrified and overwhelmed. "Marcus, can we talk tomorrow? About us? About what happens next?" "Of course. Is something wrong?" "No, just things we need to figure out." "Okay. Sleep well, Evelyn. You too." She set down her phone and stared at her ceiling, knowing sleep wouldn't come easy. The next morning, Evelyn arrived early. She found Marcus already awake, looking nervous. "You wanted to talk," he said as soon as she entered. "Yes." She sat down. "Marcus, your aunt made a good point yesterday, about us, about the situation." His expression shuddered. "She thinks you should quit. Not quit, transition. She thinks you should hire someone else for the physical care, so that whatever's happening between us can happen without the employee-employer dynamic." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "She's probably right." "You think so?" "I think as long as you're bathing me and helping me dress, there's always going to be this question of whether you're staying because you care or because it's your job. And I think I need to know the answer to that question. Really know it." "So do I," Evelyn admitted. "But Marcus, bringing in someone new, that's going to be hard. You've gotten comfortable with me. Starting over with a stranger will suck," he finished. "But it's necessary, isn't it? If we want to figure out if this is real." "Yes," he nodded slowly. "Okay, then that's what we do. I'll tell Diane to start looking for someone new, but Evelyn," he reached for her hand, "I don't want you to disappear. I still want to see you, talk to you. I just want it to be because we choose it, not because you're obligated. I want that too." "Then we're agreed." He smiled, but it was shaky. "I'm terrified, by the way." "Of what?" "That once you're not here every day, you'll realize you don't actually want this, that the feelings were just proximity and convenience." She leaned forward and kissed him softly. "I guess we'll find out. But Marcus, I'm betting on us." "Me too." The transition took a week to arrange. Diane found a male nurse named David, older, experienced, no nonsense. He was exactly what Marcus needed. Competent without being emotional, professional without being cold. Evelyn stayed for the first 2 days to help with the handoff. It was harder than she'd expected, watching David do the things she'd been doing, watching someone else help Marcus with his most vulnerable moments. But Marcus handled it well, better than she'd feared. He was polite with David, cooperative, focused on his recovery. On Evelyn's last official day as his caregiver, Marcus asked to speak with her privately. "Thank you," he said, "for everything, for seeing me, for pushing me, for being honest even when it was hard." "I should be thanking you," Evelyn said. "You gave me a job when I needed one, and you gave me more than I expected. What happens now? Now we figure out what this looks like without the job between us." "I'd like to take you to dinner," Marcus said. "Once I can sit in a regular chair for more than 20 minutes without my back giving out. A real date, somewhere nice. I'd like that. And in the meantime, I'd like to keep talking. Keep seeing you, if you want." "I want?" He smiled. That real smile that transformed his face. "Good. Because Evelyn Moore, I've been half in love with you for 10 years, and now that I've actually gotten to know you, I'm working my way toward fully in love. And that's Terrifying and wonderful, and I don't want to waste any more time. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm working my way there too, toward fully in love with you. They kissed then, soft and sweet and full of promise. The next 2 weeks were strange. Evelyn wasn't at the house every day anymore, which felt wrong at first. But Marcus called her every evening. They talked for hours about his therapy progress, her new clients, their favorite movies, their biggest fears. He was making real progress now. The foot movement had evolved into ankle flexion, then knee bending. Small movements, but consistent. Tom was optimistic about his chances for walking again, with time and continued therapy. Evelyn visited twice a week, staying for lunch or dinner. They talked, laughed, shared pieces of their lives. Marcus told her about his company, a tech firm that developed accessibility software. Evelyn loved the irony that he'd spent years making technology easier for people with disabilities, and now he was living that reality himself. "Do you think everything happens for a reason?" Marcus asked one evening over dinner. They were in his room, him in his chair, her sitting cross-legged on his bed, eating takeout Thai food. "I don't know," Evelyn said honestly. "I'd like to think so, but sometimes I think we just give meaning to things after they happen." "What meaning do you give this? Us?" She set down her fork. "I think maybe we needed time to become the people we are now. 10 years ago, I was too scared to leave a bad marriage. You were too focused on success. Maybe we wouldn't have worked then. And now? Now we've both been broken and put ourselves back together. Now we know what actually matters." Marcus reached across the space between them and took her hand. "What matters to you? Honesty, kindness, someone who sees me and doesn't try to change me, someone who makes me feel safe." She looked at him. "What about you? Connection, real connection, someone who sees past what I can do to who I am, someone who doesn't need me to be perfect." "I don't need you to be perfect." "I know. That's why I'm falling for you." The words hung in the air, an almost confession, not quite there yet, but close. Marcus. A knock interrupted them. Diane entered, her expression serious. "Sorry to interrupt. Marcus," Julian called. "He wants to visit this weekend." Marcus's expression darkened. "Tell him I'm busy." "I did. He's coming anyway." "Great," Marcus muttered. "Just what I need." After Diane left, Evelyn asked, "You don't get along with your cousin?" "Julian means well, but he's got no filter. He says whatever he's thinking without considering how it sounds. Last time he visited, he spent an hour talking about how my accident must be teaching me humility, as if I needed to be humbled." "That sounds awful." It was. And now he's coming back, probably to offer more unsolicited wisdom about how my paralysis is a blessing in disguise. Evelyn squeezed his hand. "Want me to be here, as a buffer?" "Would you?" "Of course." He looked relieved. "Thank you. Having you here makes everything easier." Julian Reed arrived on Saturday afternoon with his wife and too many opinions. He was tall, well-dressed, and exactly as tactless as Marcus had described. "Cousin!" he boomed, entering the house like he owned it. "You're looking better. Still in the chair, I see." "Hi, Julian," Marcus said flatly. Julian's eyes landed on Evelyn. "And who's this? New nurse?" "Former caregiver," Evelyn said, offering her hand. "Now just a friend. I'm Evelyn." "Friend," Julian repeated with a knowing look. "Right. Sure." The afternoon was painful. Julian dominated every conversation, offered advice nobody asked for, and made at least 3 comments about how Marcus's accident was probably for the best, because it would teach him to appreciate what he had. Evelyn watched Marcus's jaw get tighter with each comment. She saw him withdrawing, building walls she'd worked so hard to help him take down. During a break when Julian's wife was in the bathroom and Diane was getting drinks, Julian leaned toward Marcus. "So really, man, this girl, the caregiver, you're not actually dating her, are you?" "What if I am?" Marcus's voice was cold. "Come on, be real. She was your employee. She took care of you when you couldn't take care of yourself. That's not exactly the foundation for a healthy relationship." "Julian, I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. She probably feels sorry for you. And you're probably confusing gratitude with something deeper. It happens. But it's not real, Marcus. You know that." Evelyn had been in the hallway. She heard every word. She saw Marcus's expression crumble. saw him absorb Julian's words like they were truth instead of cruelty. "Maybe you're right," Marcus said quietly. The words hit Evelyn like a fist. She turned and walked quickly toward the bathroom, her eyes burning. She locked herself inside and pressed her hands against the sink, trying to breathe. Was Julian right? Was she just feeling sorry for Marcus? Was he just grateful for her care? No, she knew what they had was real. She knew it, but did Marcus? She left before dinner, claiming a headache. Marcus tried to get her to stay, but she couldn't, not with Julian's words ringing in her head, not with the doubt she'd seen in Marcus's eyes. At home, she ignored Claire's calls. She lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and wondered if she was making a terrible mistake. Her phone buzzed. "Marcus." "I'm sorry about Julian. He's an idiot." She didn't respond. "Evelyn, please, talk to me." Still nothing. "I didn't mean what I said. I was just trying to get him to shut up," she finally texted back. "Did you mean it? Do you think I pity you?" The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times. "I don't know what I think." Julian got in my head. "He said things I've been afraid to say out loud." "Like what?" "Like maybe you're staying out of obligation. Like maybe I'm reading more into this because I'm vulnerable and you're kind." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "Is that what you really think? That I'm just being nice? I think I'm scared. I think I want this to be real so badly that I might be ignoring signs that it's not." "What signs?" "You were my caregiver. You saw me at my worst. How can you separate those feelings from whatever you feel now?" She understood what he was asking, but the question still hurt. "I can't prove it to you, Marcus. I can't make you believe me. You either trust what I've told you or you don't. I want to trust you, but you don't." No response. Evelyn set down her phone and let herself cry. She'd been through this before. Someone doubting her feelings, questioning her motives, making her feel like she had to prove her worth. She wouldn't do it again, not even for Marcus. If he couldn't see what they had, couldn't believe in what she felt, then maybe Julian was right. Maybe they were both confused. Maybe this had been a mistake from the start. The next morning, Evelyn woke up with clarity. She showered, dressed, and drove to Marcus's house with a plan. David answered the door. "He's in his room. Fair warning, he's in a mood." She found Marcus sitting by the window, staring out at nothing. "We need to talk," she said. He turned. His eyes were red-rimmed. "I'm sorry. Let me finish." She stayed by the door. "Marcus, I care about you. I've cared about you since we were in college, and I've come to care about you even more these past weeks. But I can't spend my life proving that to you. I can't constantly defend my feelings against your doubt. Evelyn, when I was married to Jason, I spent 2 years trying to prove I loved him enough, trying to be what he wanted. And it was never enough, because the problem wasn't me. It was that he didn't believe love was real. He thought everyone had ulterior motives. I'm not him. I know. But you're letting fear turn you into someone similar. You're letting Julian's words matter more than mine. And I can't fight that battle for you." Marcus's hands gripped the wheelchair arms. "So what are you saying? You're done?" "I'm saying you need to decide what you believe. Do you think I pity you? Do you think this is just gratitude and proximity? Or do you think maybe, just maybe, two people found each other at the right time and actually have a chance at something real?" "I want to believe the last one. Wanting isn't enough. You have to actually believe it. You have to trust me." He closed his eyes. "What if I can't? What if Julian's right and I'm too broken to see clearly?" "Then I'll wait," Evelyn said softly. "I'll wait until you figure it out. But Marcus, I won't keep defending myself. I won't keep proving I'm here for the right reasons. You either believe me or you don't." She turned to leave. "Evelyn, wait." She stopped but didn't turn around. "I love you," he said. "I think I've loved you since the library, since you dropped those books and looked at me like I was someone worth knowing. And I've spent 10 years trying not to think about you because I'd convinced myself I'd missed my chance." She turned slowly. "But then you showed up here," he continued, "and you took care of me without making me feel small. And you looked at me like I was still whole, even when I felt broken. And Evelyn, that terrified me. Because if you're real, if this is real, then I have something to lose again, and I've lost enough." Tears were sliding down her cheeks now. Marcus, Julian's words hit me hard because they echoed everything I'd been thinking, every fear I'd been hiding. But that doesn't make them true. It just makes me a coward. He rolled his chair toward her, stopping just in front of where she stood. I believe you, he said. I believe you care. I believe this is real. And I'm sorry it took Julian being an ass for me to realize I was letting fear win instead of fighting for what I want. For you. Evelyn knelt down, so they were eye level. What do you want? You, however you'll have me. Wherever this goes. I want to try, really try. No more doubts, no more listening to voices that aren't yours. She touched his face gently. I want that too. But Marcus, you have to trust me, even when it's hard. Even when people like Julian plant doubts, you have to trust that I'm here because I choose to be. I will, I promise. And I promise to be patient while you learn how. They kissed then, soft and slow, sealing promises they both intended to keep. 3 weeks passed. Marcus made progress every day, small movements becoming bigger ones, ankle flexion becoming weight-bearing exercises. Tom was optimistic. The doctors were cautiously hopeful, and Marcus himself was different, lighter, more open. He and Evelyn fell into a new rhythm. She visited 4 times a week, sometimes more. They talked about everything, his business, her new clients, the books they were reading, the future they were both afraid to fully imagine but couldn't stop thinking about. Julian's words had left a mark, but Marcus was learning to push past the doubt. Some days were harder than others. Days when therapy went badly, when his body refused to cooperate, when the frustration built up like pressure in his chest. On those days, Evelyn reminded him why she stayed, not with grand gestures or elaborate speeches, but with presence, with patience, with the simple act of showing up. On a Thursday afternoon, 6 weeks after Evelyn had stopped being Marcus's official caregiver, he called her with excitement in his voice. I stood today, he said without preamble. What? I stood, with the parallel bars and Tom spotting me. But I stood, Evelyn, on my own legs for 30 seconds. She could hear the disbelief and joy mixing in his voice. Marcus, that's incredible. I know, I couldn't believe it. Tom almost cried. I think I might have too, but don't tell anyone. She laughed, her own eyes wet. I'm so proud of you. Can you come over tonight? I want to show you. Well, I want Tom here to make sure I don't fall, but I want you to see. I'll be there. That evening, Evelyn arrived to find Marcus, Tom, Diane, and even David gathered in the therapy room. The energy was electric. Ready for the show? Marcus asked, but she could see the nervousness underneath his smile. Always. Tom positioned himself beside Marcus, who gripped the parallel bars. Slowly, using every ounce of strength in his arms and core, Marcus pulled himself up. His legs shook. His face strained with effort, but he stood. For 45 seconds, Marcus Reed stood on his own legs. When he lowered himself back to the chair, the room erupted. Diane clapped. David grinned. Tom slapped Marcus on the back. But Marcus was looking at Evelyn. She crossed to him, knelt down, and took his hands. You did it. I did it. How does it feel? Terrifying. Amazing. Like maybe everything isn't over after all. She kissed him, not caring who was watching. It was never over. You just couldn't see it yet. That night, after everyone left, Evelyn and Marcus sat in his room. He was exhausted but happy, truly happy for the first time since she'd known him in this house. Tell me something, he said. What happens when I can walk again? When I don't need a wheelchair? When I can drive? When I'm back to something like normal? What do you mean? I mean, will you still want this? Will I still be enough when I'm not the broken man who needs saving? Evelyn had been expecting this question, had known it would come eventually. Marcus, I never wanted to save you. I wanted to help you, yes. But saving someone implies they're not whole without you. You were always whole. You just needed time to heal. That didn't answer my question. She met his eyes. Yes, I'll still want this. I'll want you when you're walking, when you're running your company from the office instead of from bed, when you don't need help with anything. I'll want you when you're strong and capable and back to the man you were before the accident. Because that's not why I fell for you. Why did you fall for me? Because you're honest. Because you fight for what matters. Because you see me, really see me, and you don't try to make me smaller to fit some idea of who I should be. Because when I'm with you, I feel like the best version of myself. Marcus pulled her closer. I see you because you're impossible not to see. You walk into a room and everything gets brighter. That's the corniest thing you've ever said. Doesn't make it less true. She laughed and kissed him. They stayed like that for a while, wrapped in each other, the future finally feeling possible instead of terrifying. The progress continued. Within 2 months of that first stand, Marcus was taking steps with a walker. Slow, careful steps, but steps nonetheless. The doctors upgraded his prognosis. Tom increased the therapy intensity. Marcus started talking about returning to work part-time. Evelyn watched the transformation with pride and something that felt like relief. Not because she'd needed him to recover to prove anything, but because she knew how much he needed it for himself. One evening in late spring, Marcus asked her to stay for a family dinner. Small gathering, he said. Just Diane, Tom, and us. Maybe Claire if she wants to come. You want Claire there? She's your best friend. I'd like to get to know her. And honestly, I probably owe her a thank you for pushing you to take this job in the first place. Evelyn smiled. She'd like that. The dinner was easy and warm. Claire and Tom hit it off immediately, bonding over their shared love of terrible reality TV. Diane watched everyone with quiet satisfaction, and Marcus held Evelyn's hand under the table, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. Toward the end of the meal, Diane raised her glass. I want to make a toast. Everyone quieted. To Marcus, who reminded me that Reed men are stubborn but not stupid. You fought your way back from something that would have broken most people. I'm proud of you. Marcus's eyes were bright. Thank you. And to Evelyn, Diane continued, who saw my nephew at his worst and didn't run, who stayed not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Thank you for loving him well. Evelyn's throat was tight. Thank you for letting me. They clinked glasses, and the moment felt sacred, like a blessing, like permission to build something lasting. After dinner, Marcus asked Evelyn to walk with him in the garden. He was using a cane now instead of the walker, another milestone, and moving with more confidence every day. They walked slowly down the stone path, surrounded by flowers Diane had planted years ago. I have something to tell you, Marcus said. Okay. I talked to my board yesterday about coming back to work. And they want me back. Part-time at first, then full-time when I'm ready. It's my company. They can't exactly run it without me forever. He paused. But I told them I need to make some changes first. What kind of changes? He stopped walking and turned to face her. I've been thinking a lot about what matters, about what I want my life to look like. And Evelyn, I spent 10 years building a company and neglecting everything else. I don't want to do that again. What do you want? I want balance. I want to work hard, but come home at night. I want weekends that aren't consumed by business. I want time for the people I love. He took her hands. I want time for you. Her heart was pounding. Marcus, I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. We've only been doing this, really doing this, for a few months. But I'm telling you that I'm serious about us, about building a life together, and I want you to know that before we go any further. Evelyn felt tears building. I want that too, all of it. Yeah? Yeah. He pulled her close and kissed her, there in the garden, surrounded by the smell of jasmine and the sound of evening birds. When they pulled apart, he was smiling that smile she loved, the one that transformed his whole face. I love you, he said. I should have said it in college. I should have said it the first day you walked back into my life. But I'm saying it now, and I'll keep saying it until you believe it. I already believe it. She touched his face gently. I love you too. I've been waiting to say it out loud, but Marcus, I've felt it for a while now. How long? Remember the morning you told me about noticing me in the library? I think I fell then. Or maybe I started falling 10 years ago and just finally landed. He laughed, and it was the best sound she'd ever heard. That's even cornier than what I said earlier. I learned from the best. They walked back to the house hand in hand, taking their time, savoring the moment. Inside, through the windows, they could see Diane and Tom and Claire laughing about something. It looked warm, welcoming, like family. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for pushing through my fear and doubt, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. Thank you for letting me in, for trusting me, for choosing me even when it was hard." 6 months later, Marcus was walking without assistance. He still had limitations. Long distances tired him, stairs were challenging, and some days his legs ached in ways that reminded him the injury wasn't completely healed. But he was mobile, independent, living a life that looked almost normal from the outside. His company thrived with his return. He implemented the changes he'd promised himself: better boundaries, more delegation, actual vacations. His employees noticed the difference. The Marcus who came back from his accident was more patient, more present, more human than the driven workaholic who'd left. Evelyn continued her caregiving work, but she'd also started taking online classes toward finishing her nursing degree. Marcus encouraged her, helped her study, celebrated every good grade like it was a personal victory. They split time between his house and her apartment, though she spent most nights at his place. They cooked together, badly at first, then better. They watched movies, argued about books, took walks in the neighborhood. They built a life that felt steady and real. On a Saturday morning in early fall, Marcus woke Evelyn early. "Get dressed," he said. "Something nice but comfortable." "Why?" "It's a surprise." She was learning to love his surprises. Last month he'd taken her to a pottery class. They'd both been terrible at it, but they'd laughed until their sides hurt. The month before, he'd arranged for them to volunteer together at a local youth center, teaching kids basic computer skills. This time, he drove them to a park on the edge of the city, a place with walking trails and a lake and benches overlooking the water. "This is beautiful," Evelyn said as they walked toward the lake. "I didn't know this was here. I used to come here sometimes, before the accident, when work got overwhelming and I needed to remember the world was bigger than my problems." They found a bench and sat, watching the morning light play across the water. "Evelyn," Marcus said, and something in his voice made her turn. "Do you remember the first time we met? Real met, I mean. Not just saw each other across the library. When I dropped my books." "When you dropped your books," he confirmed. "You looked at me like I'd saved your life instead of just helping you pick up some papers. And I remember thinking that I wanted someone to look at me like that every day, like I mattered in a way that had nothing to do with success or money or status. You did matter. You do matter." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. Evelyn's breath caught. "I know we said we'd take our time," Marcus continued, "and we have. We've built something real and tested and strong. But Evelyn, I don't want to wait anymore. I've already wasted 10 years. I don't want to waste another day not being completely, officially, permanently yours." He opened the box. Inside was a simple ring, a single diamond on a gold band, elegant and understated. "Evelyn Moore, will you marry me?" She was crying before she could speak, happy tears this time, the kind that came from joy too big to contain. "Yes," she managed. "Yes, absolutely, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her into a kiss that felt like a promise and a celebration all at once. When they pulled apart, he was crying too. "I was terrified you'd say no," he admitted. "Why would I say no? Marcus, you're everything I didn't know I was looking for. I'm a man who can't run marathons anymore, who has bad days where his legs don't work right, who has scars and limitations," and she stopped him with another kiss. "You're a man who fought his way back from something terrible, who learned to be vulnerable, who loves with his whole heart, who sees me and chooses me and makes me believe in forever. That's what you are." He pressed his forehead against hers. "How did I get so lucky?" "We both got lucky. We got a second chance." They sat there for a long time, watching the morning unfold, wearing their happiness like light. The wedding was small and perfect. They held it in Marcus's garden 6 months later, surrounded by the people who mattered most. Claire stood as Evelyn's maid of honor. Tom was Marcus's best man. Diane officiated, because of course she did. Julian even showed up and managed to get through the entire ceremony without saying anything tactless. He pulled Marcus aside afterward. "I was wrong," he said, "about her, about both of you. I'm sorry for what I said." Marcus accepted the apology with grace he'd learned through pain. "Thank you, that means something. She's good for you, better than good. You're different with her, happier, more you." "I know. Don't screw it up," Marcus laughed. "I'll try not to." At the reception, held in the same garden under string lights that made everything glow, Marcus gave a speech. "Most people know the story of my accident," he began, "how I went from running a company to being unable to walk, how I lost my independence and my identity and my sense of purpose." The crowd was quiet, listening. What most people don't know is that I'd already lost something before the accident. I'd lost myself. I'd spent so long chasing success that I'd forgotten what I was chasing it for. I had money and status and a nice house, and I was completely, utterly alone. He looked at Evelyn, standing beside him in her simple white dress. Then this woman walked back into my life. Not to save me. She'd be annoyed if I said that. But to remind me who I was underneath all the fear and anger. To show me that strength isn't about never needing help. It's about accepting help with grace and giving help with love. Evelyn's eyes were wet. The accident didn't give me Evelyn, but it gave me the clarity to recognize her when she showed up, to not waste the chance this time, to choose love over fear, vulnerability over pride, connection over isolation. He took her hand. "So thank you, Evelyn, for noticing a boy in a library 10 years ago, for coming back when I needed you most, for staying when it got hard, for loving me well enough that I learned to love myself again. I promise to spend the rest of my life earning the gift you've given me." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. 2 years after the wedding, Evelyn finished her nursing degree. Marcus threw her a party that rivaled their wedding reception. She was embarrassed by the attention, but glowed with pride. "What's next?" Claire asked during the celebration. "You going to quit caregiving and work in a hospital?" Evelyn looked at Marcus across the room, laughing with Tom about something. "Actually, I'm thinking about starting a training program for caregivers, teaching them not just the medical stuff, but the emotional side, how to see people at their most vulnerable and help them keep their dignity." "That's perfect for you." "Marcus thinks so too. He's already offered to fund it." "Of course he did. Not because he thinks I need his money," Evelyn clarified, "but because he believes in what I want to build." That was the difference between Marcus and Jason. Jason had wanted to control her dreams. Marcus wanted to support them. The training program launched 6 months later. Evelyn taught classes twice a week, sharing everything she'd learned from years of caregiving and from her own experience with Marcus. The students loved her. The reviews were glowing, and slowly, steadily, she built something that mattered. Marcus continued running his company, but he kept his promise about balance. He was home for dinner most nights. He took weekends off. He made time for the life they'd built together. They traveled, carefully, accounting for Marcus's limitations, but still traveling. They saw beaches and mountains and cities they'd only read about. They made memories that had nothing to do with illness or injury or recovery. Some days were still hard, days when Marcus's legs hurt more than usual, when the old frustrations surfaced, when the scars, physical and emotional, reminded them of how much had been lost. But more days were good, days full of laughter and easy conversation and the simple pleasure of being together. Days that felt normal in the best possible way. On their 3rd anniversary, they returned to the park where Marcus had proposed. They walked the same trail, sat on the same bench, watched the same lake sparkle in the afternoon light. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked. "Choosing this life? Choosing me?" Evelyn looked at him, this man who'd traveled through so much pain to find peace, who'd learned to receive love as gracefully as he gave it, who made her laugh and challenged her and saw her fully. "Not for a second," she said. "Do you?" "Never. You're the best decision I ever made." "Well, technically you're the decision I should have made 10 years ago, but still," she laughed. "Better late than never." "Much better." He pulled her close. "I used to think strength meant never needing anyone, never showing weakness, always being in control. The accident taught me that's not strength, that's just fear dressed up as independence." What do you think strength is now? Letting someone see you at your worst and trusting they'll stay, asking for help when you need it, being vulnerable even when it's terrifying, building a life with someone and choosing them every day, even when it's hard. That's a good definition. I learned it from you. They sat in comfortable silence, watching families play by the water, couples walk hand in hand, life continuing all around them. Thank you, Evelyn said quietly. For what? For being worth noticing. 10 years ago in that library, and every day since. Marcus kissed her softly. Thank you for noticing, and for staying, and for building this life with me. I wouldn't want to build it with anyone else. And she meant it, every word, because love, they'd both learned, wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about finding someone who had it all together or never needed help or never struggled with doubt and fear. Love was about finding someone who saw you, really saw you, at your best and worst, in strength and weakness, in triumph and pain, and chose you anyway. Every single day. They'd found that in each other, not despite the obstacles, but sometimes because of them. Not in spite of the pain, but through it. And that, Evelyn thought as she sat beside her husband in the afternoon light, was worth more than any story of perfect people living perfect lives. This was real. This was earned. This was theirs. And it was more than enough. The end.